Okay. So, well, first, before we even start, let's welcome Jennifer Wells. She's our new planning board member. Welcome and best of luck to you. I mean, today you're going to really be getting used to things, probably not going to vote on anything, but you'll get an idea of what's happening. So, okay, so we're going to call the meeting to order. February 22nd, 2021, New Paltz Town Planning Board. Do I have a motion to approve the January 25th minutes? Amanda, that's you? Yes? Okay. Second. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Do we have a quorum? Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Yep. Okay, no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Is there anyone here for public comment? No one? Okay. We're going to close public comment. So let's just wait another moment for Lyle and see if he can get on.
Amy is absent, right? I don't see her here.
Right. Hi, how you making out? All right, he can't get in, but he's going to call in now. So, okay. So our first application review is the Homeland Towers. Who do we have here from Homeland Towers?
Hello, Vincent Xavier's here.
Hi, Mr. Godioso.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Aye.
We also have Matt Allen from Saratoga Associates with us in case any questions arise.
Okay, all right, terrific. So Ashley, you're here too? Yeah, hi.
Yes, hello.
So tonight, everyone received the DEIS, and I think tonight we have just to decide whether or not this DEIS is adequate to be released to the public. So from what I understand, the standard is not that great. So what we need to do is decide whether or not enough of what the scope has been addressed in this. Is there anyone on the planning board that has questions? Jane?
Yeah, it's just one really quick question. The memo from the Ulster County Planning Board had suggested a 140-foot height. We know that you've waived in the DEIS the right to extend it higher, but I just was wondering if you're willing to comply with what they feel the height would, the 140, or are you feeling you need to stay at the height you've specified in the DEIS?
I think that's not something we're gonna discuss tonight.
Okay.
What we need to find out and figure out tonight is whether or not the information that we received is adequate to be sent out. Right, Ashley, would you say?
Yes. So you will, of course, you have to consider the Ulster County comments, and substantively you'll discuss that in addition to the actual substance of the DEIS itself. But here it's really that lower threshold decision of whether it's adequate to be released to the public, and then give the public and other agencies an opportunity to comment, along with all of the board members as well, to have substantive comments in the future on the actual DEIS.
And then we'll also set up a, if we find that we're there and this is okay, we're going to set up a public hearing, which will include a public hearing for everything that that's on the table. So it won't be just for this part of it, but for every part that's in front of us. So I don't have that
Yes,
list.
so seeker requires you, when you have a public hearings required for your site plan and special use permit and also the wetlands permit. So you group them all together and just hold one public hearing on the DEIS and then also on the actual applications themselves too.
And I guess, so maybe we should get the first part out of the way and then we can set a public hearing. Matt, you have a question?
Yeah, so just to be clear, we're just saying that they did enough for the public to see it, correct?
Yes, so
Right,
it,
that they hit all the points that they were supposed to, which I feel they did, and now they're gonna now it's gonna be out there for the public. So this is not a huge decision for us. Am I understanding that correctly?
exactly, it's determining that it's adequate with respect to its scope and content for the purpose of starting public review. So it's basically, right now it can't be released to the public, so this step's needed in order to allow the public to comment. And as you said, if it responds to the scope and, there's nothing, they didn't miss a whole section of something, that was required, something like that, then it would be adequate.
So can we make a motion to approve that it's adequate for public, and then we can have discussion if there's any need for discussion?
I guess
agree.
after a
I
second.
agree.
Second,
Okay, wait, hold it. Let's get the motion straight because it's the public and any other governmental agencies. So Mandy, you want to try that motion?
Right, so the motion is that we find the draft EIS that's been submitted complete and addressing the scoping document and ready for public review.
So I don't know that complete.
I guess
is the
adequate
word
for
we-
public, adequate
Adequate.
for review by the public and other
Okay.
government agencies.
Okay, adequate for review.
Okay, so do I have a second?
I seconded.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? I think Lyle's here. Lyle, is that you, that telephone I see over there?
Yeah, I think that's him.
Okay. Okay. Okay, is there no further discussion on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alana, can you maybe do a roll call? Just to-
Yeah, I can do that. Give me 1 second. Jennifer, do you want to vote on this? Or do you want to abstain? You're muted.
I haven't seen the application in full.
Okay.
I'll abstain.
Okay. Then Adele,
Yes, I vote yes.
Lyle, who I don't know if he can unmute himself on the phone. That's my one issue.
Well,
Matt,
Yes, I vote yes.
Jane,
Yes,
Amanda,
Yes,
and then Jennifer's abstaining. I don't know what we want to do about Lyle if he can't unmute himself. Although maybe I can unmute him.
you
yeah,
can
try
unmute
that.
him.
Oh, and Terrence just said in the chat, mute and unmute is *6. Thank you, Terrence.
Okay,
I vote yes.
Thank you,
Okay.
Lyle.
all right, excellent. Okay, so part one, set a date for public hearing. I think March 22nd is, will give us enough time to do everything. We won't be that close to the ticking clock. Will that work for you, Mr. Godioso?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, everyone okay with March 22nd?
Do we have to have a motion for that too, Adele?
So if you could do a motion to set the public hearing on the draft environmental impact statement and application for special use permit, site plan approval, and wetland and water course protection permit for Homeland Towers LLC and Verizon Wireless for March 22nd, 2021 at 7 p.m. and to accept written comments on the DIS for 10 days after the close of the public hearing. And that's something that's required under the secret regulations as well.
Matt?
I don't want to stop anything, but I'm not going to be here on the 20th. Is that a Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be here on that day. If that, and not that, don't wait for me. I'm just saying, I'm not gonna be here that day.
We have to make sure we have a quorum, I think.
Yes, I'm just letting you know now.
Yes, you would need a quorum, and then also, Matt, any comments you had that you could submit, perhaps if there's anything you wanted to go over,
Okay, that's fine.
that
I
your
can do that.
comments are in, or?
Well, I think Lyle just said he's not going to be here either. Lyle?
That's correct. I'm going to be out of town.
Ooh.
I am too, but I can phone in.
We were down to 5 people. I don't know if Jennifer's gonna, well, you'll have time to look things over by then.
It's the thing is, Adele, we as board members need to hear all of this, comment and discussion for when we have our discussion and make decisions. So we need to have all that information.
What's the next date that we talked about?
Would you be open to a special meeting, just like the following day for this specific purpose?
If we did
Lyle
that,
said he's out of town.
March 29th, the following Monday, is that possible? Would that work at all?
I'm not
Brenda?
here. I'm not here. I'm out of
You're
town.
not here.
Our next regularly scheduled meeting would be April 12th.
Is it
So,
too,
Matt, can
is
you
it
call
too
in?
soon to do it mid-March? No, I can't phone in. I'm not gonna be here.
I see.
Um,
What about the week after, the March?
I can,
Oh,
yeah,
that's the
I'm back
29th.
on
I
Monday.
can't,
I can,
yeah, I'm not here that day. Probably better if I'm here, right?
Yes, it's better if the chair is here.
So what about the week after March?
And it would be Monday, the 5th of April.
that's
You're
fine.
okay with that,
That's fine with me.
Lyle?
I won't be back in town till April 3rd.
Okay, so the April 5th would work?
April 5th would work.
Okay. Okay, so can I just see a show of hands for who's available on April 5th? Besides Lyle, I know he is. Okay, so it seems like everyone's available April 5th. Mr. Gaudioso, do you think that would work?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay,
So you just need to let Amy know.
we'll
Yeah,
need to let,
you need to make a motion to set a special meeting, and in addition to making a motion to set the public hearing, I think.
First, the special meeting, and then, so 2 different motions?
Yeah. Because I also need to notice, I'll need to notice the paper twofold, to notice them for the public hearing and then notice them that it's a special meeting, because the public will be expecting it to be like a regularly scheduled meeting.
Right.
But again, they also have 10 days after that to submit the written comments. So.
All right, I move we set a special meeting for public comment on the Homeland Towers DEIS on Monday, April 5.
Public hearing.
2021.
public hearing, right?
Public hearing,
A special meeting. First, we're just doing the special meeting, then we're doing the public hearing.
right, special meeting first,
Second-
April 5th.
Second,
Alana, is that good? You're good with, you got that?
Yes.
Yes, I got that.
Okay, okay, all in favor?
aye.
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 Okay,
Okay, I move that we set a public hearing for the Homeland Towers matter at the special meeting on Monday, April 5th.
I think you have to say all the things.
Oh,
I can repeat it for you if you'd like.
yes,
have
would you
notes here.
repeat it for me? Thank you,
Certainly,
because
certainly.
I'm good, but I'm not that good.
So it would be a motion to, and now let me just pull it up. A motion to schedule the public hearing on the draft environmental impact statement and application for special use permit, site plan approval, and wetland and water course protection permit for Homeland Towers LLC and Verizon Wireless for April 5th, 2021 at 7 p.m. and to accept written comments on the DEIS for 10 days after the close of the hearings.
So move.
okay, is there a second?
Matt.
Matt, second? Oh, Lyle, either one. Okay, is there any discussion on that motion?
So
Okay,
the nearby property owners will be notified by mail or something? Is that how that works?
Yes, it'll be within the 500, I'll put together that list of neighbors within 500 feet and send it to the applicant. They'll put the sign on the property and then I'll also notice the paper.
Okay, great.
thank you.
Now, Alana, there are because it's a hearing under seeker, the notice requirements are a little different. I think it's
Oh,
14
okay.
days.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the towns is normally, but that's probably gonna have to be published a little earlier than normally is, but we could talk about that.
Okay, yeah, I'll get in touch with you about that tomorrow, probably.
Okay, all in
If I
favor?
could just, it wasn't clear to me if there was one board member who had abstained from the first motion. I don't know if she voted for the special meeting or the.
I think she did. Jennifer, you did.
Just wanted to make
Yes.
sure. Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous.
Are there any nays? Okay.
Okay. Okay, is there anything else with this application for tonight? Ashley, do you think? I think we're good.
No, I think that's it for this matter.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Take it
If I
easy.
could just respectfully before I go, Madam Member Schamberg, in response to your question, if you could just look at section 5.4 on page 61. It'll
Okay.
answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you very much. And it was very well done. It really made it easy for us.
I hope so. I put a little
Yeah.
divider and everything in there.
You guys, yeah, very nice, really.
It was
Thank you.
big.
Have a good day. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so next we have the subdivision, Albany Post Road subdivision. Amanda's gonna preside over that application tonight.
Okey doke. So this, let's see. Mark, are you Mark Albrecht?
Yes, hi.
Okay, hi, nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so do you want to just tell us about your application a little bit?
Sure. We've owned the property for a little over 17 years. We purchased it from the Wendell Harp Estate. And when we purchased it, we actively proposed that there was a limitation on the subdivisions, only one extra lot per subdivision, with the mindset to preserve the area, to preserve the environment and visually just to stay more farmland than not. So at this time, we have decided that we would like to subdivide one lot. And that's pretty much the story.
Okay, and with this subdivision, you're also indicating where a driveway would go and potentially location of a house, right?
Yes, it's all been thought out after spending 17 years on the site and thinking about it and seeing how things are there with the environment and people and just how it would work best. We've identified a site.
Okay, so we have, and I'm sure you've seen, there's two memos. One is from our engineer.
Yep.
So we'll ask Andy to go through that. The other one will be from the Environmental Conservation Board, and we'll have Rich go through that after Andy has given us his run through.
Okay. So the project disturbs more than an acre of land. So as required by the DEC, they have to do basically a basic stormwater pollution prevention plan, which Bob is familiar with.
Yep.
The EAF, what they do now is they trigger certain things when you automatically generate it for a property. And this property triggered the bald eagle and the pied-billed grebe, which I haven't heard that one before. I'm not even totally sure, but essentially, and Ashley can chime in on this if she wants, but the way that I like to deal with these is basically you send your plan to the DEC Region 3 permits, and you just say, hey, here's my project. Do we have any impact on the bald eagle or the other bird, I think it is, and you let them kind of decide. It's really their regulations. They're the one that set this standard. And then Bob the engineer submits it to them, and you get a letter back from them that says whether you're going to do additional study, you got to do mitigation, or nothing at all. So that's what I recommend for that. Similarly, the archaeological sensitive areas. There's a lot of areas in New Paltz that are archaeologically sensitive, and there's kind of big radiuses, and the same process, except this goes through SHPO, and you can submit an application online, and you basically just say same thing, submit the plan, ask them if there's any further study required for this particular project. Driveways, New York State building code, driveways more than 500 feet have to have an emergency pull-off. And they talked about the covenants and restrictions when they subdivided this lot. Looks like 2003. They put a restriction that it can only be subdivided into one more lot. Bob put all the notes on the plan. But I just think they should submit a copy of that original filed map just so the town has it, and we can make sure whatever conditions were put on that we can make sure that this is consistent. And they've requested some waivers, which included some of the stone walls, some topography in areas that they're not developing, soil testing for a septic system, and I would agree that those are all reasonable waivers to not have on the map, considering the limited scope of the project. And that's everything I have.
Okay, so the ENCB has looked at this as well. So Rich, would you like to go through your comments that you prepared?
Sure, thanks, Amanda. Basically, we just came up with a list of bullet points for this subdivision, just different environmental characteristics that we think just kind of need to be pointed out and just brought to light. So when you guys make your decision, all the information was there. So I'm just going to read the letter, pretty quickly here. So this letter provides initial comments by the Town of New Paltz Environmental Conservation Board on the proposed subdivision of the 34.3 acre parcel on 525 Albany Post Road. The ENCB reviewed local plans and inventories and identified environmental resources documented on or near the parcel and notes the following. The parcel is within the Butterville Canyon foothills priority area of the open space plan. Plan states that new development within the foothills area should be designed with sensitivity to the natural and cultural features of the land, including gentle to steep sloping hills, scenic view sheds, farmlands, wetlands, and stream corridors. This can be accomplished by using a conservation design approach, which is on pages 15 through 17 of the conservation design. The shrubland and forest area on the property is part of the 640 plus acre wooded lot previously proposed as the Stony Kill Woods and as a critical environmental area for the town of New Paltz. The eastern side of the property is included in a habitat core mapped by Ulster County. Stony Kill Woods is an important wildlife corridor between protected lands of Shawangunk Ridge and the foothills area around the Wallkill River. The Stony Kill itself flows along the southern edge of the property and is a small tributary stream that flows into the Wallkill River. The Northern Wallkill Biodiversity Plan noted that the high concentrations of grassland birds live in this lot, including the eastern meadowlark and the bobolink, and nearby Libertyville and Kleinkill grass areas. This species may use the field on this lot. The EAF notes that, as Andy noted, that the bald eagle has been spotted in the vicinity, and just geologically, the proposed new building site is located on the, not quite sure how to pronounce it, but Fusilia gravel silt looms soils, and according to Ulster County Soil Survey. Overall, we feel that the plan drawn up, it addresses many environmental issues, and the ENCB would just like to provide the following recommendations to help preserve the unique environmental characteristics of this parcel. So sitting the proposed dwelling closer to Albany Post Road, we feel would reduce the habitat fragmentation and disturbance, which can extend hundreds of feet from the residential development. This would also reduce the length of the driveway, which is proposed at over 500 feet, and avoid disturbance of the more sloping southern half of the parcel. We recommend that the wetlands inspector should visit the site to verify whether any jurisdictional wetlands are present in or near the proposed area of disturbance. That the planning board should also conduct a site visit. That SWIP stormwater prevention plan is required as noted by the town engineer based on proposed disturbance of greater than an acre, Jenny just covered, and also the current plan calls for the driveway to be made of gravel. We recommend that as a condition of any future sales or improvements to the driveway must remain of a porous material to reduce water runoff and possible contamination to nearby water sources, such as the Stony Kill and the 2 wetland areas to the east of the lot. So those are our recommendations and comments so far.
Great. Alana, can you let me share my screen?
I think you should be able to.
Okay, let me see if I can. It's taking a second. There. Okay, can y'all see that?
Not yet. Do you have the document?
Yeah, it's open on my
There
screen.
you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So this is the
Didn't
parcel we're
escape. Yeah,
talking
good.
about,
Yep.
right? This is the Ulster County parcel viewer. And so a couple of things we can look at are, this is, so when that's all shaded and that X is there, that's saying it's like the 500-year flood zone area, just so we're aware that entire area is. It shows actual wetlands, and yeah, that's about it on that. Then when we get down here, we can see hydric soils going right through here. That means probable wetlands in that area. So this is all towards, if you recall from the map that was sent with the application, we have a lot of topography lines close together here. So this is sloping down, and here's the little Stony Kill here. So this part of the lot is starting to have a bit of slope. And then the other thing is,
Could I just make a point on that? I think that you're further back than you think there, where the sloping lines are. If you go back to the previous map. So in that zone, it's actually flat.
and here it's flat.
Yes.
So you're saying the slope, oh, I see what, so the slope is more in the middle right here.
The slope is where the 3 and the 1 are.
Okay, and that's kind of where you're talking about the house is right before the slope, and then you've got some septic kind of right in the beginning of the sloping area, right?
Correct.
Okay, and then this was the other thing. This area is considered farmland of statewide importance, so, except for some reason right in here. So that's kind of interesting. And then here's the last thing. Habitat core there. So again, along the waterway and around here, you have some habitat core. So I think that just supports what the ENCB was telling us about thinking about the location. And if you could, you know, the subdivision is one thing because you're gonna change the lot line, but where you ultimately think about placing your building and how far your driveway goes. And then of course, I know you've asked for waivers on the tree surveys and stuff, but we would obviously want to know anything about trees that are in the area that you're proposing to build the driveway or the house. So that's clear, right?
It's all, this is Bob James. It's all brush and young trees. There's nothing of any size there.
Oh,
There's
okay.
nothing of any size to be cut.
All right, because yeah, the map we have shows all along the border. It shows a tree line. Oh my goodness, don't do that.
Right. The tree line's basically along the stone wall.
Along the stone wall, but it also shows a tree line crossing the property.
Yeah, there's a tree line associated with the stone wall. To the east and southeast of that wall and tree line is brush.
Okay, okay.
So
And
the proposed house is in a brushy area.
They're also
it used to be field where we're proposing the house and septic and driveway to the east of that wall that we're talking about used to be field. As far back as 03.
And there's also natural openings from when it was hay fields that the farmers used to go through. So we wouldn't be cutting down a tree to put the driveway in, it would go through a pre-existing opening.
Okay, so that's
We're,
good about.
we're also well outside the shaded, the orange yellow shading. We're
Right.
well outside of that.
That's the habitat core, right?
Yeah, we're well outside of that.
Okay, so so this is just so everybody on the board kind of understands what's going on here. And so you've heard the requests from the engineer and from the ENCB. There's some things that you need to get as far as some letters from different state entities. And we would like
They've
to-
both been notified. John Bonafide at Parks and DEC Region 3 have both been notified by email.
Great, so you'll get a response from them. And of course, the SWIP, the stormwater management will have to be part of your plan. And we would like to arrange a site visit when the place is, you know, who knows, and it's going to be under snow or not snow, but anyway, we'd like to.
It's nice with the snow.
We'll wear our snowshoes, okay.
Um,
And oh, the wetlands inspector, you need to, you need to have the wetlands inspector come out and do his inspection. Usually we can combine those. We can do the site visit with the wetlands inspector so he can also show us what he's seen. So Adele, I think at this point, I don't think there's much else we can, you know, we need to get these other documents and we need to arrange for the site visit and the wetland inspection, so.
Could I
We can set a public hearing too, by the way.
So actually, if I could just step in, so you could take the first step under seeker, which would be to classify the action as an unlisted action. And you need to complete seeker before you hold the public hearing. So you shouldn't be setting that tonight because there is some more information you're going to need in order to complete your seeker review. But the main thing would be to type it as an unlisted action. And then also there were some other areas where if there's other waivers being sought, if the applicant could look at the standards in your code, it's section 121-15.
I've already right up.
14. I think you had requested some, but sidewalk waivers, for example, those haven't been requested, and sidewalks are required for all subdivisions, so those aren't shown. And anything else then would be in 121-14, I believe.
So we need written requests for waivers of all these different things, right?
So if the applicant, could review, and the way you typically handle subdivisions like this as well is you do the preliminary and the final together. So unless the applicant's intending something else, you should also look at section 121-15 to make sure you're meeting all those final plat requirements as well. And I believe that
Is health department approval part of conditional final or no?
So I think you would do, so the health department approval is, I think you typically do it as part of conditional final. I don't know if the town has a preference.
You could do it either way. The lot's big enough that you wouldn't have to, but we probably would make that a condition of final signature. Yeah.
And this one does not get referred to county because it's not on a county road, right?
Yes, it does not meet any, it's exempt under your agreement with the county.
Okay. So the thing we need to do now is make a motion to list it as unlisted, right? To declare it unlisted?
Yes, to classify the action as unlisted action under seeker.
So we need a motion.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any more discussion?
I just wanted to talk for a moment, if I may, about the NCB suggestion to move it forward. You know, we've lived there for 17 years, and I take it very seriously as a designer where I locate a dwelling. And while I understand when looking at it from an aerial view and from a map and from a plan, the front seems to have less of a disturbance. But I just want to point out that our intention is to maintain this as much as farmland as possible. I have reviewed the open space plan that Rich refers to in the letter. And, you know, something that's important to us too is that there aren't too many houses on the road and that are visually present on the road that affect the scenic view from the road and from the ridge. I've also spent a lot of time on the ridge. I'm a climber. And when you look down, you actually don't see our house, and you wouldn't see this dwelling either because it's just below the tree line behind there. So I've taken into consideration protection of view, maintaining the land, and the least amount of disturbance centered in that middle field, so it's far enough away from the Stony Kill. And I welcome you to look at that aspect of the site location when you come onto the site.
That'll be great. We'll come back to that comment. We were in the middle of if there was any discussion about is an unlisted.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. None. So can we take the vote? All in favor? Lyle? Lyle. We lost Lyle.
Yes. Yes. Hello?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any opposed? Okay, so that was unanimous. Okay, so exactly what you're saying, Mark, is the kind of stuff, you're right. We'll be able to see it when we come for the site visit. And keep in mind that the ENCB is looking at it from the environmental aspects of biodiversity and habitat. And you're looking at it from aesthetics and stuff like, so, we have to look at all those things. So.
I'm actually looking at it from what the ENCB cites, which is the New Paltz Open Space Plan. And, they say the number one input from the community for this plan, the number one input from the community, their greatest concern was the scenic part, the scenic component.
Right.
So I do look at it from environmental. I mean, we are doing regenerative farming on the front field.
Cool.
So, you'll see all that when you come out.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark, we're not, trying to come down on you or anything. I mean, like Amanda said, it's, we're given a set of plans, we look at it, and, we just kind of give our recommendations, but certainly on the site visit, it's like you said, it was something that you'll be able to point out of why you chose the space that you did. And no, it'll be good. I have faith that you're doing the right thing. So
Great, I appreciate that.
thank you.
So I don't know if we can pick a date for the site visit now, or we need to do that.
I can send out an email tomorrow with everyone.
Okay.
And we can try and coordinate it that way.
All right. So we need to coordinate it with all the board members, with Mark Carabetta. Yeah, Jane?
I was just saying, it would be helpful to me on a site visit if Mark were there.
Yeah, no, we need Mark there.
Oh, yeah, no, he'll be there, yeah.
And Rich, someone from ENCB, I suppose, can be there, right? Okay. All right, great. Anything else then on this one, Adele?
Just one question from me. As far as the driveway is concerned, do I contact Chris Marks directly?
Andy?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so once we get a little bit more information, we'll have you back. Good?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Bye.
Bye now.
Okay, so the next application is the clearing and grading permit. Do we have an applicant here somewhere?
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Chairman. This is Mike Morganti. I'm the project engineer for this application. It's before the board.
Okay, thank you.
And
Lyle, Lyle, you able to preside over this?
And I think Keith,
Sure.
Keith
Okay.
Leibold is the property owner, right?
the applicant is here also, Keith Bible. Yes.
Yes, good evening, everyone.
Hi there. So Lyle Nolan is going to preside over this application.
Yeah, so this is, the same property has come up before. I can't remember the details of it, but anyway, let's let Andy give his, go over his review first.
I do remember this project. This was a proposed subdivision, I'm gonna say 12 years ago or something. Mike Morganti was engineer, he could talk about it as well, but this was a proposed pretty good size, I think 20 lot subdivision that I guess just never happened. So just going through my letter here, there's 4 standards for a clearing and grading law. And there's actually 5. One of them is erosion controls, which I'll review, but the other 4, I just recommend the board take a look at and just see if they agree that they're meeting these standards which I cited in the letter. I do think that they've met the erosion control standard. They've prepared erosion control plans, erosion control details. The EAF needs to be auto-generated on the website, so that there's a couple things I think they're going to come up, like wetlands and the bald eagle, I think, again. So that needs to be generated automatically. And if it does, it will be the bald eagle as well. So I'd recommend contacting the DEC, sending the plan, make sure they have no issues with your project as far as the bald eagle. The driveway goes by a wetland that I believe was delineated way back when they did the subdivision. I don't know if they revalidated it, but if it's, wetland boundaries can change. Right now, the driveway goes about 125 feet from the wetland, and the code is 100 feet for the buffer. So usually, I think Mark Carabata should comment on whether it should be redelineated, and he'll probably want to go just take a look and make sure it didn't get bigger, and that they're not disturbing than 100 feet. There's disturbing 0.97 acres, which if you go over an acre, you have to do the stormwater plan. I thought that the line on the map was kind of tight. They showed it, right up against the driveway and like within a few feet of where the house is going to go. I just asked they try to show a little more realistic of what will actually be disturbed when you got excavators out there and clearing. And then we could see if it ends up being over an acre or not. And if it is over an acre, you got to do the stormwater, the SWIP for DEC regs. Looked like a culvert might be needed at that low point where it goes near the wetland, and then perhaps some drainage on the south side of that driveway to protect it, and then just a typical driveway cross section so we could see how wide the driveway is. Yeah, and that's what I had. Okay,
thanks, Andy. I had sort of the same comments, and I calculated that a 1,000-foot driveway, if you extended it another foot on either side, only 1 foot on either side, that would come up to 0.04 of an acre. And so I think we should really, this cries out for SWIP's protocols. I've built a lot of houses, and I don't think you can build one with only 5 feet of clearance from the outside of the foundation. It's just not enough. Insufficient stockpiling, or actually I don't see anything for stockpiling. So you have a 1-lane driveway 1,000 feet long. I don't know how you're going to put it in. You got to scrape off topsoil and stumps and whatever, and get them out, and then bring new material back in. That's pretty tight without some area to work. I was sort of curious why the pull off on the driveway, which according to the code cited on the previous application would be a little bit too small. You're showing 20 by 40 and the code seems to be 20 by 50. So for emergency vehicle pull off. Let's see what else. And just recheck wetland C. That was the other one I had.
So the ENCB has a memo for this one too, Lyle.
Yes, we can go over that. Somebody could read that if they so desire.
I apologize. Can I ask what you said? Check 11C?
To redelineate or to make sure that it's still where it started out at.
The wetland we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does someone want to read the NCB comments?
Yeah. So Letters kind of similar to the last one. We just point out some different environmental characteristics of this particular site. I'm going to jump around a little here just because we're on the SWIP discussion. We echo pretty much the same thoughts as Lyle and Andrew, you both already said. At 0.97 acres, whether that can actually be achieved or not, it's so close to the threshold that we think a SWIP plan is important enough to, recommend whether or not they disturb the 0.03 extra acres, which I think is pretty certain that they will. But even if they do not, we recommend the SWIP plan. So our recommendations for the site and some characteristics are the site is characterized by forest and forested wetlands. It's part of a larger 430-acre forest that extends between Du Bois Road and Jansen Road. The proposed building site overlaps with core habitat area as mapped by Ulster County and seen on the Ulster County parcel viewer. Wetlands are abundant on this site and ultimately drain into the Plattekill stream. Once again, as the town engineer noted, the wetland delineation should be updated to see if it's involved in this or not. Let's see what else we got here that we haven't covered. The driveway has been sited to avoid disturbance of mature trees greater than 12 inches of diameter. We'd like to do a tree survey just to know how many trees will need to be removed. We're recommending a planning board conduct a site visit. And once again, we're proposing to moving the dweller closer to Eugene Brown Drive, which is, the goal of that is to reduce habitat fragmentation and disturbance, which can extend hundreds of feet from a residential dwelling. This also reduces the length of the driveway, which this one's proposed at over 500 feet as well. And then that would avoid greater disturbance of a forested habitat core area and would also reduce potential stormwater management needs. So those are our recommendations for this site as well.
Was this driveway proposed to be gravel?
That I couldn't tell you. One of the other members looked at this site plan, not me.
We actually did not provide a driveway detail yet for this project, but we certainly, I can talk with the applicant and determine if that's an opportunity for us to take a look at a gravel driveway.
Okay, just a question. And is there a plan for a second house?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought I said something about in the future for the parents or something like that.
So if I may, I know I'm not trying to, obviously we'll approach every point. How I arrived here, I think, is somewhat important. So we're very early on in the whole idea of putting our personal home here. We'd never want to develop this in any manner that was prior brought to the board. That's not our interest. This is just a home for my family. So originally I just simply wanted to get some of the undergrowth out and clear a small area so that the architect and I could safely walk and see where we would like to put the house.
Okay.
And so I said, you know what, out of just respect, I'd like to get a nice walking path in. That's where Michael and I began to talk about, well, if we're going to do that, let's locate a proposed driveway. So in no way right now do I want to install a driveway. I went through the building and asked, hey, if I run into a tree along this route, may I cut it? And they said, not without a clearing and grading permit. So that brought me here. So I know it's kind of odd. I don't want to put an excavator back there. I mean, possibly in all honesty, maybe a bobcat would help if a tree was fallen or to brush out like thorn thickets. But I think a site walk will really show a lot. And I'm really after this so that if I do run into a larger tree, I could respectfully be able to cut it. I'm not trying to clear or install this driveway at this time or any excavation for a foundation or begin a home building. I don't even have designs for that yet.
So But you're asking for a clearing permit, right?
Which could be, I can speak with Michael and I thought I had provided a cover letter that kind of showed that limitation to exactly the purpose at this time. I did not want to wind up cutting a tree and someone see or hear and then be brought here and say, hey, why didn't you come here and do this? So I just want to work the appropriate avenue. And then exactly if showing the amount of trees that may be cut for that purpose helps with that. Absolutely. I just wanted you all to know that's why there isn't like detailing on the actual driveway.
Okay.
That was all.
Well, it sounds like a site visit would help us on this one too, to have a better idea of what's there and whether there's, I mean, if your driveway is sort of conceptual now, it might be that if there's a big tree, you could find a way to go around it or something, but we don't even know what's on it, so.
Right, absolutely.
It seems as though in the future, you would probably have to have another clearing and grading permit then.
If needed, yeah. One to come back with more details and permanent understanding. Sure.
Well, I mean, if you're saying you're not building a driveway now, so you just want a footpath, then that's one thing. And then if you decide you want to build a driveway, then it would be more impact.
You'd want to see that permanent detailing. Yeah, I understand.
And I think that's what Keith is exactly trying to get at, is that he's just looking for the easy ability to access the portion of the site that he's considering for a house location. And that's in essence, I guess, what led him to come to the board for a clearing and grading permit. It could turn out that the driveway that we proposed is the proper location, but as we continue to detail the plans, we'll figure that out for sure.
Well, do you not have access to that old logging road up at the top?
No, unfortunately, I don't. Now, to be honest, I don't even, if I was to go through the school's boundary and hug the tree line, I don't have a clear way to get to it.
I thought it came out over by Nepal or something like that, some other little mini development. I can't remember the name of it.
I'm looking at it right now. And that road is in the northwest, or that logging area. I remember the site pretty well. Is in the northwestern section of the site. And you'd have to go through other neighboring parcels and get permission for them to even get to it. And then from that point to our site is, I'm going to guess, well over 2,000, maybe even 3,000 feet.
Okay, no, I thought maybe if you just needed small access for planning purposes.
Lyle, you're remembering it right. If you reviewed that project, they did have access over there when they did the subdivision, but they had another parcel was part of it, and now they don't have that connection anymore on that side.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
So if I might note, we don't take any exception to having the wetlands re-looked at and verified. What I would ask is that at your earliest convenience, if your wetland consultant's available to go for a site walk, to confirm that would be much appreciated. The closest we are with the road to any of the wetlands is 125 feet. So we're currently outside of that wetland buffer by 25 feet. And on the other side, on the western side of the site, we're even further from the wetland buffer. We're probably closer to 100 feet from the 100-foot wetland buffer. So I guess what I'm suggesting is hopefully we can be practical about this. And if what's shown on the map appears to be reasonable and does not look like it has been, none of the wetlands have increased in size greatly, that we could, I guess, put that comment behind us, if that makes sense.
So are you saying that there's so much brush that the wetland inspector is going to have trouble getting in there to do his delineation?
I don't know your current wetland inspector. I did know your former one, Mr. Spider Barber.
Oh, that was a
And
long time ago.
that's a long time ago. It's been a while since I've been in New Paltz. I can tell you that these wetland boundaries at that time were thoroughly vetted. I was out there with Andy myself at the time, I think when he worked for Dave Clauser's office. And we also together looked at a few of these wetlands. So unless there's been significant changes in drainage patterns here, which I would expect there hasn't been, I think the site's been left untouched since I last saw it. I highly doubt they've increased in size, but it certainly is required to revalidate them in that sense, simply because it's been more than 5 years.
Right. I'm just asking about access because I'm hearing there's a lot of brush and stuff.
I think if I can, is it okay with the board if I share my screen? I'll show you.
Yeah, you should be able to.
So this is really right here, as you can see. This is the major area of concern right here. This is the one spot where I think we're about roughly 25 feet from what could be considered the actual wetland buffer, which is right there. So I don't think it's too difficult for someone to walk in maybe and I have to get to the side, probably about a few hundred feet into that spot. Should be pretty easy for the wetland guy to access that point and inspect and make sure that what's currently there makes sense. And as you can see here, I'll zoom in a little more. These flags that were marked way back when are not too far off the property line. So I think it would be pretty easy to see if this wetland right here indeed is in fact in the same shape that it was when it was originally delineated.
Right. I think you'll want to look at that one and then the one over nearer to the house, the proposed house site.
Yeah, this one I'm really not too concerned about because the actual wetland boundary pretty much follows the edge of the water body that's there.
Mm-hmm.
So that should be pretty easy for them to confirm. And again, this distance right here between here, so keep in mind, like that's the actual distance between the house and the buffer, and then the actual wetland is down there. So I feel like we're in a good spot here.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be okay in terms of our separation distance to any existing wetlands.
So-
And when the board does have the opportunity to walk the site, you'll obviously get to this point here, and you'll see why Keith had looked at utilizing this area. It's a nice little high point on the site. Got some nice views to the lake, and you take pretty good advantage of the nice wooded area inside the site for some privacy and home ownership.
And are those little ovally things, is that an old stone wall? Come down near your pullout, like your turnaround?
Oh yeah, this would be a stone wall right here, correct?
Okay.
Yes. Which is actually a good marker point when you're out there. That's a good visual to know exactly roughly where you are. You're probably about halfway through the driveway at that point. Probably just about under 500 feet there.
So I'm sorry, Lyle, do you want to do this? I'm just trying to get straight what we're asking for now versus so we're asking for a minimal clearing of just some brush hogging to not cutting down trees right now, just to be able to clear a walking path, right?
That's how I'm understanding it. I think that we can't really go too far with this. I think what we need to do is schedule the wetland inspector to get out there
Yep.
and for us to have a site visit. And that
Right.
probably can't happen for, I would think, a month at least.
The only thing I would add to that is that if that's all they want to do is just clear, a small path to walk in, then I just think that the plan should say that, the plan is calling for a full driveway and an acre of clearing. So I think the plan should be consistent with whatever they want to do.
Yeah, I agree completely. I was going to say the same thing, that I think the board needs information to know what exactly is being sought, because if you don't really want this driveway where it's shown, then the plan should just show what exactly, you want to do and what limited clearing grading you're seeking to do at this point, and explaining that perhaps in a narrative if that's helpful. And then also, just for purposes of seeker, would be an unlisted action for the clearing and grading permit at this time.
Do clearing and grading permits require a public hearing?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so. I checked.
Yes, it doesn't.
I don't think so.
One other question, because I'm not disputing the 0.97 acres versus the 1 acre. Regardless, we are 0.97 acres. I think one of the board members had commented that it would be close enough to warrant a basic SWIP. But just what does the town typically look for? Is there anything that they seem to appreciate or like to see more with the basic, I guess, residential SWIP that disturb more than 1 acre of land?
So you would, I mean, that's why I think it's even more important to put on the plan what you want to do, because if you're just clearing brush, that isn't even considered land disturbance according to a SWIP. So I think that's really subject to grading. You're actually grading the soil for the SWIP. But to answer your question, the SWIP would just be the basic, it's right in the GP 20, the basic requirements. It's basically an erosion control plan.
So I thought.
With a report though, that you need to have a report with soils and some other things, but it's nowhere near the full SWIP.
Yep, just wanted to make sure we were talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what can we do tonight?
We need to list it. We need to declare it. We need to.
Is that something we're gonna do tonight, even though we don't have the real plan in front of us?
You want
I
to
think
come
we
back
need
with
more
what you have?
information. We need more information first.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Ashley, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Andy had mentioned too, some things on the EAF that would need to be resubmitted using the mapper. So that could be submitted as well with the, revised actual plan of what's being requested. And then you could see if anything changed the classification at that point. So.
Yeah, I think that's better. I don't know if I'm actually, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so Mr. Leibold and Mr. Morgante, we have enough?
Yeah, I think I can make whatever the changes are that are required, and we can make a resubmittal.
Okay, all right, very good. Lyle, you have anything else?
No, nothing else.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks for
All
coming.
right, thank you for your time. Have a good night tonight, everybody.
Everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so next on the agenda is our administrative business, and the town board has asked us to revisit the CEA proposal by the ENCB. And we had a meeting with Michael Dupree. So I've asked Jane. Jane is gonna preside over this.
Okay. Chair Ruger asked me to sort of do a summary of where we stand on this, because actually this is a planning board decision, not, a town board policy decision, not a planning board decision at all. So a year ago in February, actually almost a year ago to a couple of weeks ago, we replied in writing to the town board's request for recommendations on a proposal to establish 5 critical environmental areas covering about 47% of the town's total acreage. The opinions on the planning board were provided in the letter, and the letter's summary requested joint consultations with the town board to assess the impact on homeowners and landowners in the town who might come before the planning board. Each individual member of the board gave their personal recommendation, and the opinions really were very varied. No joint consultations ever took place. Instead, in response to lobbying by special interest group, the town board sought opinions of the planning board council, the planning board chair from Hyde Park, and the ENCB. That was done independently of the planning board, our planning board, and without any substantive response to the recommendations from our members. So we really never knew what the town board thought of what we said. So then we're going to fast forward. The town board next sent us a video of the presentation made by the Hyde Park planning board chair and our ENCB chair. Then we were asked to sit the same presentation at one of our meetings, and that was what Chair Ruger referred to. There doesn't seem to be really a need to discuss this substantively, again, unless members of this board have changed their opinions, and we can visit that. But even though the town board's decision to implement the full CEA proposal could make our work more complicated and might require higher applicant fees, we're willing certainly to discuss it. We have taken this up solely in response to the town board's repeated requests. The planning board chair from Hyde Park presented information that was interesting, but I think not really revealing anything upon closer examination. And it's unclear to me why they were used as the comparison, because they have extensive federal lands, state park lands, and trusts that make up the bulk of their CEA areas. Hyde Park itself has about a little bit over, when we began to ask questions following that meeting, 100 parcels, or about 9% of the town, with the CEA designation apart from the federal lands and the parklands. Now, even if the total of the 4 or 5 proposed New Paltz CEAs was dialed back a bit, and I think at some point we were told it was, coverage would still nearly extend to 40% of the town in New Paltz and involve 496 land parcels. That's information provided to us in response to a question by the ENCB. 172 of those might potentially be possible to subdivide by the ENCB's own estimate. So that's nearly double Hyde Park numbers. In all of Ulster County, when you check with the state website, there are currently only 5 town designated CEAs. 5. Shawangunk has 2, including the Ridge, which is one of ours. The town of Woodstock has 1, and the town of Wawarsing has 2. That's probably likely because the seeker process is extremely rigorous for these matters. The proposal of 4 or 5 CEAs in New Paltz alone seems a bit out of scale with the rest of the county, particularly this year when economic pressures and physical restrictions have just invaded so many aspects of, our lives, our daily lives. This weekend, I tried to go back and recheck the status of the CEA proposal because I wasn't clear about, I said that Ingrid had said that it was dialed back and it wasn't clear by how much. So I went to check it, but it doesn't appear to be available on the town website any longer. Additionally, there is noted also by the NCB that there is no requirement by seeker for the town board to send out any notice to property owners prior to making designations of this scale, approximately 40% or so of the town. So while the public hearing, according to the ENCB, remains open from last year, I'm not sure what that means, and maybe we could seek a clarification of that. Again, this is a town board decision. The planning board doesn't have a meaningful dialogue with the town board on this matter. And it's really, we've given our opinions, and I guess it's just up to us to see tonight whether we have any changes. And the chair may, want to have that discussion now.
Thank you. Thanks, Jane. It was a lot of work and appreciate it.
Fine to do.
Okay, so for those planning board members that would like to speak on this, and maybe even if you wouldn't like to speak on it, I think the town is expecting something from us. Rather, we could certainly send Jane's notes over as is, but if you've got something you think is inappropriate in what she said, or it doesn't really reflect the majority of what the board thought, I think most of the things you said were factual, and I don't know that they really had an opinion. Anyone? Matt, I don't think we've heard from you about this, because I think the last time it was discussed, I don't know that you were here, or maybe you were.
Yeah, I was here. I mean, I'm kind of with Jane. Like, I don't understand what our role is here. Like, if it's a town board decision to make the CEA, then we'll deal with whatever the town board decides, right? I just
Well, I
don't,
think they're asking for an opinion on what we think, because the work is going to be ours.
Right.
So I think that we should probably not be fearful of showing an opinion if we have one. And if we don't have one, we don't have one.
right, can I just read something from the letter that Ingrid sent in response to our questions that really stood out to me? Maybe that'll help.
Okay.
This is what I read. How many of those parcels are already impacted by the wetlands and watercourse law? Of the 172 potentially subdividable parcels identified in the proposed CEAs, 143 of them overlap with mapped wetlands, watercourses, and approximate jurisdictional buffer areas. My only thing is, like, I feel like we're being redundant is my only comment. I feel like I mean, you're only talking about another 25 parcels that are not covered by the wetlands law. And this is the only, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think, I don't want to be redundant. If the people already have to do all the things that they have to do, then what are we doing? That's what I don't understand.
Okay. Thank you. So, Jane spoke.
Well, could I say something personally? Because I did say this in the original memo. I think that I have absolutely no problem immediately designating the ridge. It comports with what Shangun did. They had the ridge, it probably extends it. If there's a strong argument for a second area, might be persuaded, and I haven't really had a chance to discuss this with anybody. But I just think that when I asked why we had to do this now, Ingrid said, well, because I couldn't get the information before and we may not be able to get it again, but we have it. I just don't see any urgency. And I think it feels to me a bit like we all want to protect everything. And really there are good reasons for it, but it seems a bit out of scale with what other towns in the county have done. And it seems a little bit overzealous at this point to go from 0 to 100 here. I really feel that it could be done incrementally, carefully, slowly, deliberately, and that the town board doesn't, if I were saying, I wouldn't see why they have to, go for the whole enchilada when they could, pick out pieces.
Okay, so Lyle, you want to comment?
Yes, I take a different tact. I think that I value the reports and information that we get from the ENCV, but I think that we do a very good job with the information that we have. I think that it's unnecessary, even for the ridge. We all know and love the ridge, and everybody that goes to develop up there goes through a rigorous scrutiny of their project. I just don't see the need for it.
Okay. Amanda.
What can I say? So if you go back to the 1995 comprehensive plan, it proposes that the town identify, and it suggests CEAs. So it's part of our comprehensive plan, which is supposed to be our Bible for land use. So it's following on that wish and that direction from way back when. So it's not something new, and it's not something all of a sudden out of the blue. It's like we finally are getting to it. And the fact that it's however many it is reflects what the actual features in New Paltz are. You can't compare it to other towns because they may have different features, or they may not have had the resources to do the work to get all the information about all of the areas at the time. So it is what it is. Kind of what you saw us do today is about what would happen if there was a CEA during seeker. We would go and look at those extra parts of it that go beyond the wetlands, you know, that have other attributes of the parcel that would be in question. If we only do one or two of the ones that were suggested, we don't know when a project may come in one of those. It's not like we can wait and see how it goes. You know, we can't predict when we'll get a project that's on the ridge or someplace else. So we may wait, we may get one next month, or we may get one in 5 years before we get to do it, see how it works. So that kind of approach also to me is kind of like, doesn't help us understand necessarily how it would work. So, and I think what the point was that also that the number of parcels affected have some other controls of them, just like we have other controls, like we have steep slopes and we have things like that.
Why don't we need it?
I think it was an extra 17% that was not under any, and please remember, it is not protection. Nothing's being protected. It only means that we have to take it into consideration during seeker that there could be some special attributes there. And it identifies those attributes for us, so we don't have to go doing a lot of digging and spending a lot of time and energy finding them out over and over again. It's actually I see it as a helpful tool. And it's right, it would be right there available to anyone. Any applicant could see that right off the bat and know what kinds of things they might need to be taking into account. So I guess I'm looking at it from a very pragmatic way. I don't, yeah, sorry.
Thank you, thanks. So, okay, I'm gonna put my little bit of 2 cents in. First, I always object to having public hearings where stakeholders are not informed that their properties are going to be voted on to have new codes and new laws attached to them. So I think that's a really big issue. I used to live off of Huguenot Street in this little ranch house that was built in 1970. And all of a sudden, my house became the historic district. And I was really upset that no one said, why didn't someone tell me? You know, all of a sudden I got notices. I think it's really important that everyone involved that has a piece of property knows that we're discussing this. And it's not enough to say it was in the paper. You know, these people need, in my opinion, notification that this is even being discussed. Okay. My second comment is that New Paltz already has a reputation for being a town that does not, that is not welcoming to developers. We put, and rightfully so, you know, we do a good job of going through everything, but I believe that as soon as people hear CEA, they're not coming here, especially because they're not coming here already, because we have a reputation for being the worst, or not the worst, but the most expensive place to get through a plan, to get to an end result. I don't know, I mean, I would even, I might even ask you, Andy, because you're around, right? You're around all the towns. So I'm concerned about that. Everything that is required in the CEA are tools that are available to us already. We can have all of these consultants and all of these reviews without it being designated in a CEA. And as Lyle said, I think we do a good job. And sometimes we do too good a job. You know, projects get extremely expensive for a single family home, for, you know, extra soil tests and and sometimes it's above and beyond what needs to happen and people just walk away. So I can see the Ridge being a part of the CEA. It's really supposed to be, in my opinion, for something like that. You know, it's like so beyond special that it should be in the CEA. Hyde Park is a very different place. They only have designated, I think, 9%. We're talking 38%. I just think it's too much. So, but I would like to hear maybe from Andy, if you don't mind. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you go to other towns with applications, and it would be good to hear from you if you feel that these CEAs will make it more difficult or easier, as Amanda's suggesting, you know?
So definitely, all us professionals all talk to each other, and the town of New Paltz definitely has a reputation for being the most, hardest to get an approval, or one of the hardest in the area. And I think you just kind of look at sort of the history in the last, I've been here for 20 years or so. There really hasn't been really too many large projects. There was the Lent subdivision that was 14 lots. If you kind of compare it to other towns, there really hasn't been very many large projects that were approved in this town. My personal feeling, the CEA is not something that I see a lot of. There's not that many of them. So when it does come up on an EAF, it's in a water supply area. So you have to consider, they drink the water that goes through the reservoir. This would be kind of a new territory. It's a little bit of trailblazing, I think. It feels like that the town is doing in this large areas. I personally think I would, as a consultant, I would prefer code over a CEA. To me, a CEA is could be vague. If from my opinion, if I was the engineer, say, okay, this is a special area, it's being protected for this reason or that kind of adds a level of uncertainty for me if I was a design engineer. Where a good example here is the ridge. The town of Shongum did a CEA on the ridge. The town of Gardner did zoning laws. So the way the town of Gardner works is as you go up the ridge, they have SP1, SP2, SP3, SP1, it starts to get difficult. SP2, it gets harder, and SP3, like, good luck. You can't really do anything up there. And I kind of like that, honestly. There's some parts of that law that I love, but it's more definitive. It really gets into, you got to preserve stone walls, you got to, survey every single tree, or they're pitch pines, and it's like 12 pages of stuff. So that's kind of my thoughts on the whole thing.
Thank you. So, and then my next question is for you, David. What is it the town board wants from us? Because here we have a bunch of opinions and we're not going to be able to take a vote on anything here. So I'm not sure, or I'm not really clear what the town board wants from us.
Also, the town board hasn't really heard from us. Only David hears from us. And then, the town board hears from other people, but I just think it's a shame. I said this the last meeting, and I think that we have to talk to each other a lot more. I take a lot of these seminars. I'm taking another one tomorrow, and communication is stressed, over and over again between the various entities that are functioning in the town, so that they know what each other is doing. They know where everybody's going. I mean, we're friendly people. So we talk to each other, happy to talk to you. And it shouldn't be just, on one of those phone calls where, like, why are you calling? Well, I'm calling to tell you what I think. You didn't ask me to, but I'm doing it anyway. That's a different thing than really welcoming, opinions, because we deal with this, every 2 weeks.
Yeah. So Jane, are you complete? Jane, are you complete speaking? I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, no, I've said a lot.
Great. That's okay. Yeah, just so you know, I invited the whole planning board to Mr. Dupree's presentation to the town board, and no one was able to attend. Listen, you guys are doing a tremendous amount of work as volunteers. I just want to be clear. Yeah, I think Amanda was there. Thank you. But yeah, I don't want to pretend. You guys are doing a tremendous service to our community. So I don't want to pretend like you have to show up to more meetings than you already do. So thank you for that. But we're not, we are trying to communicate. And what I'm really looking for in my role is to build consensus about something. And it doesn't seem like there is consensus, which is fine. And that's what we want. We want to know what you think. And we don't want to waste more of your time. So to Matt's point about like, what are they asking of us is like, just your opinion, which is what you're giving us. So that you hear the same facts we do, or the same information we do, and that you say what you think about it, because you're in the role of actually, administering our code and our, whatever policies we put. So we want to know what you think. That doesn't mean we're always going to listen, as you know, but it certainly is going to mean that we're going to consider, and we want to consider what you're saying and what you're thinking. So I'm hearing what you're saying. I'd love, Jane, for you to send your comments that you made today to our packet so that we can hear your comments, and I will pass on to the best of my ability and encourage town board members to listen to this discussion as the town board makes their decision, because we are going to be presented to again about CEAs and encouraged to pass them by the ENCB, and that's coming up for consideration. And so instead of just doing it because there's a growing will to do something, hearing from Andy, hearing from you all about how you feel about it is really important. We did scale it back to three critical environmental areas from 5 in our last proposal to you. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but it was only 19% of the town which was not covered by other existing laws. But I'll get that number right, because Ingrid did put together a revised proposal. But I'm not here to sell you on anything. I do look at it as informational to applicants, that when they are coming and they're saying, like any of our applicants, like, you guys are a great planning board. I just being here and seeing just on the things that you face today, you guys are, you're calling out all the issues, and that's fantastic. That's what a planning board should do. And this, to me, is more informational to applicants and to you folks to say, here's the map. This is a critical environmental area. We're identifying this as something that is important, and for you to consider critical environmental features of and extraordinary features. To Adele's point, is it extraordinary? You remember Rick Golden said to us, what is extraordinary, right? Because that is what this is for. It's to identify extraordinary areas. Of course, we all think our whole town is extraordinary, but I'm hearing what you're saying, and I want to bring back those comments. I really appreciate Andy's point about, hey, if it's so important, put it in code. This way we know what to do. So just hearing you're giving me exactly what I want, as far as, I would love us all to say this, we kind of agree, but I don't think we all agree. And that's okay too. But
thank you. Alana, I have a question. Is there a way for you to summarize this a little somehow?
Summarize it?
Well, so just summarize our comments. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe you could take a stab at it, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But
in the minutes, I kind of just take down like generally what everyone's opinion was, like kind of how I would with a public hearing, where I say so-and-so expresses support or so-and-so does not express support. And I have like some details in there. Sometimes I go into a trance and I write down exactly what everyone's saying. So there is like, I have some language about like opinions, if that's what you're asking. Like,
so if you could try to do that for this, maybe with a little bit more detail than you normally do for the minutes. See if you can, and if it's possible, that would be great, and then send it out and let us look at it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys review the minutes anyway, so I can like just send out what I'm drafting from the conversation, and then you can just tell me like, oh, can you add X, Y, and Z, or like if I misconstrued a comment, you can just correct me and I can fix it that way. So that's
Good
how.
idea.
So that's
Alana, don't you have a recording of this?
there is a recording too, but I tend to like having to go back and read the recording and like find the correct moment just takes so much time. So, but yeah, you guys can always go back and also watch meetings.
Right. I mean, I understand that, but Jane has very carefully written her part out. The rest of us didn't do that. So, you know, I mean, if you want to capture everybody's point.
I think the town board, if you know, having a very summary kind of like, this is what Adele's opinion was this and this, and then just say, hey, if you want to hear exactly what Adele said, it's on the video.
Right.
You can take the time to do that. We don't need Alana to, you know, to transcript the video. I mean,
Send the link.
care that much. Go let them hear.
Yeah, send the link.
Okay, hold on. Matt?
I just want some clarification about one thing that I don't understand from Amanda, actually. So are you saying that is this going to actually save the applicants money because they're not going to need to hire consultants because all this work will be done? Is that what you're saying?
So right now, when they put in the auto on the EAF, stuff pops up. And one of the things that pops up is there a CEA or not? So if it pops up, this information is in this document of what is there. Why is it a CEA? We wouldn't have to sit there and tell them, you need to go do a habitat assessment. You need to go do all of these other consultants. It's already there. So now we know what it is, they know what it is, and then we can say, okay, what about your, kind of where we were talking today, what about your design could maybe be moved or shifted to avoid some of these special areas?
But each application is still going to have to hire consultants to confirm what's going on within that CEA, correct?
What's in the CEA is listed. It's there it's not somebody just guessed what it was or made it up.
No, I get that. I get that.
Yeah, I mean, it's there from sources from federal, state, and you know, it's all there. So they don't have to go.
I'm just being very pragmatic. Those are
Yes.
very large areas. Let's say there's 3 of them, very large areas. So an individual person is still going to have to do all the consultant work, right? It's not actually saving them any money other than a conversation of us saying, don't forget to do this.
So I guess the idea is that if they know it up front, they've got some idea of what they might need to be having to deal with.
Okay.
Not being surprised when we're all the way into part 2 of 3 of seeker and going, there's this, this, and this. You know,
Right.
when it comes up that late, that's a disaster. They've already done lots of design work and lots of engineering work.
Right. But it's
That's how I
general
see
for
it.
it's large areas. It's not per parcel. It's large areas.
So you can get it down to the parcel area. The thing is, keep in mind though, we're not talking about residential projects. We're
Right.
talking about subdivisions or large, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so it's not,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. I understand. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Jane?
There's just one more thing I want to add, because I have said that I have felt pressure on this. And I want to say that there has been a public campaign, a public lobbying campaign. I do a lot of volunteer work and a lot of activist work, political activist work. And I've been in meetings where one of the people who is advocating for this is trying to get a whole group of people who knows nothing about it to lobby for it. And I'm sitting there as a member of the planning board. There's wrong information being given out. I'm restricted and kind of constrict about what I can say. I certainly don't want to get in a fight with anybody that's advocating for anything, because, you know, we welcome public comment. I mean, we want them to come and do public comment, but there's an aspect to this that has seemed like a pressure campaign. And I have to tell you, that always gives me pause. It's like, it's just hasn't been 100% like straightforward on some level. And I can't explain it. I mean, maybe they're just so crazed that every, you know, thing be nailed down, but it seems out of proportion to the impact of how many, as Amanda says, how many things are going to be covered and what the real source of this is. And I just think that, you know, a pressure group is not something that I mean, I know the town board gets driven crazy by them, but it just seems like I needed to express that because it's been way more than them just contacting you. It's put me several times in a really strange position because I have to be careful what I say.
Thank you. Okay, so Matt. You have to unmute, okay.
I have David, I have a question for you. So I may have missed it. Did we get the new proposal from Ingrid with the three, did we get it? Did it come from her directly or from?
That was presented to you all at the meeting with Michael Dupree. We talked about I had worked with Ingrid on something that I thought would be more palatable that we could build consensus on, and brought it down from 5 areas to 3 areas, and kind of like said, hey, let's try something. Let's try a first step. And that first step was 3 areas instead, and got more information on what part of that was not covered by other existing wetland laws and other things that were going to be code and protected. And that was presented to you at the Michael Dupree meeting before Michael spoke.
Right. I didn't remember that we went from, because you seem like we went from 38%, which was pretty large, down to 17.
It's still 38.
Don't quote. Well, and it's like what I asked Ingrid to specify was what percentage was not covered in other laws.
Oh, okay.
So and please don't quote me on 19 because I'm trying to remember what hers did. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to
38. I think. Excuse me. I think it was 47 to 38, David.
No, it was 17 or 18. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big difference. So I'm going to try to send you all. I'm going to have Ingrid send you the revised presentation, not because you need to do anything. If you want to be done doing things, you can. But I just want to be careful about wrong information because I'm hearing numbers that are not the right information as far as I know them, and as far as the presentation that was given to you. So I don't pretend like you should remember, but it got a lot better. I wouldn't have asked Ingrid to present it again. And just from a timing standpoint, I just want to say that Ingrid's first presentation about the CEAs to when Rick was there and that first meeting, that was right before COVID. And then I just asked her to pull it and just wait. That's why I think some of it feels like, why does it keep going on and on and on? Well, COVID came down. There was a lot of things that were going on at that time. And then we brought it back. And really it's just a desire to build an understanding of what these CEAs are for, and build consensus and agreement around it, which there doesn't seem to be right now. And it's okay. It's okay. I don't want to pretend like there's a pressure campaign. I look at it as more information. Like just in these presentations today, when someone comes in and they want to do a subdivision and you're like, oh, by the way, did you look at this, and this? Is like, wouldn't it be good for them to know coming in, this is what you should be looking at. So before you come to us, just know that we care about this in these areas, that this is a critical area to us or something like that, or at least, an area that we're giving extra focus to. That's what I see it as, but.
So I just want to comment on that. I mean, to me, and I did speak to, professional about this. It gives people an idea of what they're looking for, what they need to look for, but also they're going to see CEA, don't go there. Now, we could use the map that Amanda showed today, which I think we did say at some point that people should be looking at this map before they come to us. And that would be good. But here in the CEA, all of a sudden, we could see, well, we don't think, some committee, we don't think you took a hard enough look. These people knew this, that, and the other thing. It's not a hard enough look. And we think that, this, that, or the other thing. And now all of a sudden, something that we might have considered a decent project is just insane. Cost-wise, it's insane. That's really one of my major objections. We don't know who hasn't come to the Hyde Park Planning Board because of the CEA. We only know who has come. They've had a lot of applications pulled. I think he expressed that at some point over, they thought it was the economy, but we are not sure. And I think people will be turned off by it. And I think they don't have a wetlands law. We have a wetlands law. I think that we have so many things in place that I don't think we need anything else. We have so many things in place. And I think we have the tools. I think Amanda showed some of those tools today. See this map? Check these boxes. That's great. I think it's enough. Okay, just an extra, my 2 cents. Okay, so anything else? Okay, so we have another agenda item. Let's see. Okay, David.
Just quickly, thanks, Adele.
Okay.
Just want to tell you the other things that are happening. That, you know, we'd like to have more of a conversation when it's possible around what the town board is talking about at our meetings. So I can bring some of those things to you, and so that there is more of a conversation. And that was Alana's idea, and Adele was interested, and so we can see how it goes. I just want to say the other thing we're talking about, obviously, the Homeland Towers issue around fees came in front of us for discussion. We discussed that at length at our town board meeting last Thursday, and I guess what we came to, and that I'd like to bring back to you all is concerns in general. Obviously, it showed up in that deal. This fee cap for consultant fees showed up in that deal for reasons that you've been made clear to everyone. But you know, I guess what I'd like to share is the thought that that the planning board might, in your discretion, of course, think about when one member has a concern or another member has a concern, and we start to bring in a lot of consultant fees. I'm not speaking about Homeland Tower specifically. I'm talking about it in more general terms. That the planning board think about what is required for certain deals that the planning board, as in a larger group, feels is necessary to be looked at, so that we do become a little more friendly. To your point about becoming more friendly to folks who are looking to do projects in our community, that the planning board as a whole comes to consensus around what consultations are needed and what are not needed, and so that we can keep fees under control when possible. And so just want to offer that, as I think you'd have the town board support to the extent that you need it or want it in thinking about ordering reports and ordering consultation beyond what you consider to be required.
So, David, I had a conversation with our attorney today, and this came up, and I learned something today. Maybe Ashley will either correct me or I don't think that the whole cell tower fee thing could have been avoided, and I'll tell you why. Apparently, there is a zero budget for consultants to look at the EAF. Zero. So even, and there was a couple of other things. I don't know, Ashley, and maybe you know, but no matter what we spent, we had a zero budget. Normally, applicants don't bother. They'll just pay it when there's a consulting fee. But there is, for certain things, it's 1/2 of 1%, and their project happens to be a low project for the amount of review that was required. But there are parts of the review that there is a zero budget for. So we would have had, and apparently that's just about the $7,000. So it's not exactly what I had thought. This is a little bit different. So I think as soon as you POSDEC someone, an applicant, as soon as there's a POSDEC, we're gonna be over budget just by virtue of doing that, because there is other than the 0.5%, which may never happen again, there is going to be a piece that there is no budget for that we will be spending money on. So I don't know. I can get a clearer, maybe our attorney can write that up and send that to the town board so we have a better idea of what really happened.
Yep, and just to be clear, on Homeland Towers directly, the board did not move on making a decision to or not to pay the consultants at this time. We're sitting on that decision. We didn't come to consensus on it and are waiting, and we'll address it at the next meeting and see how things progress. So just so you know where we ended up on that.
Can I just ask a question about this? I mean, it's not typical that when a project comes before us that we know what the value or the whatever of the project is. So to be able to, and this 0.5%, to calculate that, I mean, it's not clear to me that that number would be like something we would know that we have to work with. I mean, I don't recall it ever having been presented to us in any way where we're like, oh, don't, so for this project, you've only got X amount of money to deal with the whole EAF. And then on top of that, there's going to be, I don't think as a board, we've ever had that made clear to us.
So you know what, I think, Amanda, how many POS decks have we had?
Oh, forget the POS deck, doing the EAF. That's where the cap is, right? That's the 0.05%. Then after the POS deck, there's all the stuff we're doing now, which is costing us, I don't know where that's supposed to be, but I mean, I don't think that was, in all the sessions we've had of training on seeker, I don't think the financial component ever got laid out for us.
No, that's true. That's true.
And that's really why I'm bringing this, is that I think we're more informed now than we ever have, and we should get like completely informed if there's still confusion. But as we think about the fees that we generate for applicants, that we do that, that you do that as a planning board in consensus, and that making decisions about what needs to get done and what might not need to get done.
Okay, I like this. Okay, go ahead.
No, so when we're going through this, I mean, we bring in our own consultants for traffic reports, for engineering, for sometimes environmental. We bring in our own consultants when it's to represent, what we hope is not just the applicant's side of it, but, for us. And these may be consultants that we have or haven't worked with before. I mean, we never worked with, a cell tower consultant before, so I don't know that we were aware of what those fees might be or whatever. I don't know. So, I mean, but how can we do our job if we can't get the information that, that we need, that we're required by law and that we're allowed to have, required. And if you want us to vote on it and say, okay, we all agree that we need, a cell tower consultant or not, or we need a traffic report or not, or something like that. Is that what you're asking?
Is that a question for me, Amanda?
You're on mute, Amanda.
Sorry. Yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand what it is you'd like to see different.
Well, again, just a suggestion that when there, yes, there are things that are required that are like obvious, like a traffic study. It's like, hey, traffic study's got to get done. We're going to do it. When there's less of an agreement about what needs to get done and what doesn't, that there'd be real conversation about that. And sometimes it's easy to be like, we're going to placate this member or that member by doing this study or that study because they're bringing up this point. Is that like we have those conversations and make sure that we are considering the fact that we do want projects to get done in the town of New Paltz. We do, and that sometimes we have to work in ways that make those, to Andy's point, New Paltz has a reputation. I have to tell you, some part of that reputation we kind of like. Hey, you gotta earn your stripes to come and do something here, and some of it is maybe too much. And so just to like find that right balance between being careful about what's coming and not spending, being careful about money that gets spent that might not need to get spent. And I'm not speaking about Homeland Towers directly, just bring up that issue that has been around for a while. It's not a new issue for New Paltz.
So, okay, but I just want to make sure we're clear on what it is you're asking us to do in response to this. Is like, just so we're clear, like you want us to have a procedure that or something that maybe we haven't quite been doing before, something like that.
Yeah, I'm suggesting you might have a protocol or a procedure, or this is how this town board operates when we disagree about what should be done and shouldn't. And maybe it's like you need to reach some threshold of, you know, that someone's asking for this, but you have to have a second or a third to require that or not. That's up to you all to think, is there a protocol that's needed that will support your process or not? That's for you to decide.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Ilana.
Yeah, I just wanted to make an observation. So during the application review tonight, there was just a suggestion, oh, let's have the wetlands inspector go out there, which is fine, but there's going to be a charge related to the wetlands inspector going out there. So generally, if there's not escrow, the fee schedule is written in such a way that there's an expectation that there will be certain invoices that are just unavoidable. And the fee is supposed to be able to just cover like maybe one invoice from Rick's office or like an invoice from Andy's office, something like that. If there's not an understanding that like all of a sudden there's going to be all these different consultants, then we have to make a decision to ask for escrow or.
Yes, but we get a free wetlands one free wetlands visit, correct?
Application.
So what the wetlands consultant can do, an applicant can request them to come out and kind of do a yes or no, not a full delineation.
So he won't like, he'll go out there, but he won't send me an invoice for that site visit?
He charges, the applicant doesn't pay for it. I think it's what, like it's $100 or $125 that the town pays for the one time, very preliminary, do you have wetlands on your property or not? It's much more simplified than actually delineating the boundaries of the wetlands, which I think is actually what we, in both of these cases, said needed to be done.
So I should expect just invoices that are just $125 and that's part of the fee. When the fee schedule was written up, you're saying that fee is probably included or not? Do we know?
So you can look at the code. It's absolutely in the code, chapter 139 or 140. But in this case, I think we all know there's wetlands there. You could see it on the maps. The question was, were those delineations so old that they need to be redone? And that is not the freebie 125 that he does. So we did in fact say that they needed to have a wetlands delineation. So maybe we should have set an escrow just for that. I don't know.
That's my suggestion and observation is that I don't want there to just, I don't want to get a big invoice that I was not prepared for. And then I have to, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it might not be necessary. I'm just saying.
It's required by code. It is necessary, but yeah.
For a consensus from members that yes, this is required.
Matt.
So does your code have a process though for the escrow when it's, Amanda, I think you just said it's for the inspections required by the code, the wetlands inspection?
So the way the code is set up is any applicant can request a free assessment. It's a
anyone can anyone
any
can
property
request
owner.
free assessment.
Yeah, I could just say, I want to know what's in my backyard. Anyone could get it.
Mhm.
And the town pays the $125 to the wetlands inspector. The property owner doesn't. Once it goes beyond that and it's part of, now you're getting into the beginning of EAF and all that, and you need the delineation to make sure that, again, with the second guy, he wasn't really sure where he's putting the driveway exactly. He wasn't that far yet. But with the other one, with the subdivision, he had very clear where he was putting things, so that he needed to get that squared away.
If I could just add, I just want to add, I think that, I think a lot of it's about using your consultants like in an efficient, kind of smart way, right? So that particular example is a very smart way to use Mark Carabata. He's going to show up at the site visit and he knows wetlands. He's going to say, oh, that doesn't look close, or that looks good. We'll move it away. Whatever it is, an hour of his time. That's a really smart way to use the money. When you start getting into writing up reports and that kind of stuff, that's when it gets really expensive.
I don't want to have the whole consultant thing tarred by the Homeland Towers brush. First of all, Amanda and I were talking about the cost for the Musso for the, it was something like $415 an hour because there are so few consultants who understand this was a public utility thing. And most of the time we have the escrow, we don't have this crazy cap on it because it's a public utility thing. So I just want to make sure that there isn't the perception, David, that we're out of control with the consultants because of this one thing that was a public utility and a special case with a cap that we weren't aware of, and extraordinarily expensive consultants and a pause deck. It was kind of a perfect storm, as you know, because I mentioned that, to you when I called, as I did to 2 other members of the board.
Perhaps you want to ask Andy again, because he gets around to more planning boards and things like that than I do. I did a project in the town of Warsing that I would imagine it would have taken me a few years. And I was done in three sessions there. And I was like, oh my God, it's so very different experience. And people said, well, Warsing was really tough. And I was like, I don't know, that's up to you all to think about, I'm not telling you how to be, right? I mean, we'll have to make some decisions around the Homeland Towers thing, but that's not where this is coming from as much as 3 years ago, coming onto the town board, when I was coming onto the town board, and I was talking to other towns about like, what's going on in New Paltz? It's like, oh yeah, your planning board, can't, whatever, it's really hard to work with them, and it's going to cost you a mint, and that we have a reputation. We just do.
We do.
And some of it is good, and some, really hard. You saw some of it today, really hard working. But I think Alana's point is really smart, which is, I don't know what happens. I look forward to seeing the bills, because if Mark Albrecht is putting his house is not going to come and maybe not coming near a wetland, and you can see it on a map, and he's not even getting close to it. Well, get the yes or no for $125. I'm worried about a $600 bill for a guy who's doing something really sensitive and smart on his property. And then how many thousands of dollars is it have to cost him to do that?
Well, yes, and it's never a $600 bill, right? To delineate the wetlands, right? It's much more. So I agree. I think that's good. And this is what concerns me about having to have much more review, overly reviewing things. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there.
So I think the other thing we were asked was to do a wetlands report for last year.
Yes, I saw your email. Mark Carabata is going to do that gratis, right? He's not going to charge us.
He's going to provide the number of wetland inspections he did. And we need to see whether he has also violations or whether I have to get those from Stacy. So he will provide the information that I don't have, because I don't know everyone that he goes out on, because sometimes he's called by property owners that we don't even hear about on the planning board. And then I'll write up the report. So yes,
So that includes, so we're writing up a report, not just from the planning board, anybody that had anything, including the whole building department. That's what you're saying.
So what we're required to do by the code, by the wetlands code, is the planning board is to give an annual report to the town board on what's happened with wetlands. So what actions were done, what inspections were done, what actions were taken, what violations were taken. That's just like a list, okay? That's just like, here's what happened last year. And then we are also asked to comment on how it's working. How the ability to apply that code and enforce that code, not that we do the enforcement, but the enforcement that's done, how is that working?
So that's a really interesting thing that the planning board should be in charge of that. I gotta be honest. Doesn't sound like a planning board job to me.
It's like ENCB.
Building department, the ENCB can do it.
It's in the code for whatever
reason. We don't do any enforcement, so it's hard for us to say how it's working without going out of our department. So, right? I mean, we have to leave the planning board department to find all of the times that the wetlands inspector went to properties that might have been building permits that never came before the planning board. It just doesn't seem
Right, and part of what he's also supposed to do, I mean, so part of the wetlands inspector's requirement is to provide that information, to supply the annual report. He's also supposed to update the maps, which he does, which are then available, you know, so that we continue to build the knowledge base or the information base, because every time he goes to a parcel and does one of these things, it adds to the overall ability to know where things are in the town, or wherever they are. So that's in the code. And then just like we have to issue the permits for the wetlands applications, we're also, that's part of us is doing this report. You know, why did the permits come to the planning board instead of some other, I don't know, it's in the code. That code predated me. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, thank you. Motion to adjourn, anyone? No, we just
So
want to hang
moved.
out here? Okay.
Second,
Second, okay. All in favor? Jennifer, I hope we didn't scare you away. Not yet?
is she traumatized? Is she traumatized? Are you able to walk, Jennifer?
I'm just in a daze, but that's okay.
It lasts for about a year.
You know what? We didn't.
You'll get used to it.
We should have told Jennifer who Andy is and who, you know, who everybody is. Because the first time I was here, and I'm like, who is that person? Why they? Do you know who Terrence is?
No.
See, Amanda took me under her wing. So Jennifer, you're going to have to be taken under Amanda's wing. I used to ask her if I should speak when I first went on. I was like, do I dare? Will I make a mistake?
Great. Okay, so all in favor of the motion to adjourn? Okay, have a good night.
You too.
Bye.